Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hi, and thank you for joining. Before we begin, I want to excuse any sneezing or you all may hear from me right now. Allergies are
Girl.
today. Uh, but thank you for joining today. Thank you for joining BPIAChats. I'm your host, Alexandria Maloney, and I hope everyone is staying safe and lifted during this time. So the purpose of this series is to share the experiences and the insights of members of the international affairs community and hopefully the next generation to explore opportunities in this field. Also, the thoughts and views of our guests are their own, and we are currently streaming this live. This talk will be posted on our IGTV and our YouTube channels afterwards. And if you haven't already, please follow Black Professionals in International Affairs on Instagram, as well as our guest speaker, whose handle can be found on the flyer on their page. And lastly, we encourage viewers to chime in below.
Hey there.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
And thank you for joining. Before we begin, I want to excuse any sneezing or you all may hear from me right now. Allergies
Girl.
are today. But thank you for joining today. Thank you for joining BPIAChats. I'm your host, Alexandria Maloney, and I hope everyone is staying safe and lifted during this time. So the purpose of this series is to share the experiences and the insights of members of the international affairs community and hopefully the next generation to explore opportunities in this field. Also, the thoughts and views of our guests are their own, and we are currently streaming this live. This talk will be posted on our IGTV and our YouTube channels afterwards. And if you haven't already, please follow Black Professionals in International Affairs on Instagram, as well as our guest speaker, whose handle can be found on the flyer on their page. And lastly, we encourage viewers to chime in below in the thread with any comments and questions that they may have. So without further ado, I will introduce our guest speaker, Jamila Jones. She is a fashion designer in New York City. Originally from Ohio, she attended the University of Cincinnati and earned her Bachelor's of Science degree in fashion design. She's currently the women's denim designer for Macy's private brand International Concepts, as well as the founder and creative director of womenswear brand Jamila Mariama, if I've pronounced that correctly.
Jamila Mariama.
Mariama. Outside of her design role, she's particularly passionate about building her professional network and giving back to the community through diversity and inclusion efforts. She's on the committee of Macy's employee resource group, ONYX, and she's a mentor through the renowned organization, iMentor. So thank you so much for joining us today, Ms. Jamila.
Thank you for having me.
So I'd like to start off by asking, how is the current COVID-19 situation affecting the work that you all do in the fashion industry in particular?
Yeah, it's actually hit us pretty hard. Besides the retail aspect of it, of course, people aren't shopping in stores anymore. We still have our online business, but of course, the stores are closed. Macy's actually decided to start opening up we have about 700 stores. Within the next 6 to 8 weeks, they'll start staggering the openings for the stores. So of course, the retail part of it is completely, affected. On the production side, most of our production is overseas. And for those who don't know about clothing production, we work out of India, we work out of China. That's where all of our factories, our fabric mills are located. So those offices have also closed. They actually started closing a little bit before our offices closed because it kind of hit them first. And the other side of it with production is all of our current designs that are supposed to be in stores now, they're on boats. So that's affecting the delivery of the item. So a lot of things have been canceled that we've designed the past few months, which is really disappointing. So it's kind of affected, you know, more than just people not shopping in the stores.
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is, but it's our hope that things will, you know, folks will continue to follow the advisories and, you know,
It's to be
flag.
safe.
So I'm curious, before this pre-COVID situation, what would a typical day look like for you in your job?
So as you said, I'm the denim designer for Macy's private brand, International Concepts Inc. And if you don't know what a private brand is, it basically means that we own the designs and we only sell those designs at Macy's. So for me, I was doing all the denim designs, so tops, jackets, bottoms, skirts. And for our private brand specifically, Inc., we do new collections every month. So if you think about that, that's very fast fashion. We're one of the top leading fashion brands at Macy's. Another sort of kind of compared to Zara does about a new collection every month. So if you go in the store, you're seeing new stuff all the time. So you're seeing right now, and if this COVID thing wasn't happening, you would see the delivery from April, you would see a little bit of stuff from March, and you would see new designs for the current month, May. So that means I'm always kind of working on 3 collections at a time. So what that would include would be our design directors, they curate the concept of each collection, but it's my job to really bring that to life between different designs. So I'm drawing, I'm interpreting the inspiration for each collection. I'm working with my tech design team to work out the measurements of each garment. I'm working with different prints. I'm developing different washes for denim. I have fittings about 4 times a week with our models. So that's just ensuring that the fit of each garment is A+, ready to be worn by everyone. So it's a little bit of mixture of drawing, researching, doing comp shopping, make sure I'm looking in the market to make sure I'm ahead of the trends. So it's a little bit of everything. It's really fun though. Besides the meetings that no one wants to do all day, but that's pretty much the gist of it.
Wow, that sounds so interesting and fabulous.
It's fun. I miss it. I miss going to work.
So Jamila, could you tell us a little, and for those who have just joined in, we're here with Jamila Jones, who is a fashion designer with Macy's in New York City. So please feel free to put any questions or comments that you may have in the thread below. So Jamila, next, could you tell us a little bit more about your journey? So what got you to where you are now, you know, academic, professional, life?
So I've always been into clothes. I've always been interested in fashion design and magazines. I think fashion magazines really stemmed my interest in fashion, which a lot of people could say, especially being from Dayton, Ohio, small city, not a lot of fashion exposure at all. So a lot of inspiration I was looking for, and this was before I had a cell phone and like a computer to look at blogs and, you know, stuff like that. So a lot of the inspiration and interest came from magazines. In high school, I went to an art school, Cyber School of the Arts in Dayton, Ohio. I started off in piano. You were required to have basically like an arts major during the high school curriculum. So I started off in piano just to go to the school because it was a really good public school. It was really diverse, and it was close to my house. So I started off in piano, and being in that major, I got really interested in visual arts. So towards the latter part of high school, I started in visual arts. So I started drawing. And at first I was just starting off with drawing like people, still lifes. And then I was like, hey, I really love clothes. So why don't I start drawing clothing? So I started drawing the clothing, and then I got interested in making it. So it really kind of stemmed from like being in a really creative and cultural environment going to the school that I went to. And then just kind of like figuring out like, oh, I wonder if I draw this and then I make it. And then from there, I started researching like the best fashion schools in the country. I really wanted to get out of Ohio, wanted to go to New York, wanted to go to LA. I visited all the top schools, and I was like, this vibe is kind of weird. Like being in New York as a 17-year-old, I don't know if I would get the full college experience being on a campus and, So I went to visit the University of Cincinnati, fell in love with the campus, fell in love with their fashion shows that I started going to. But what really sold me was their internship program. They're the only school in the country that has a 5-year program where you do internships every other semester. So you're doing internships in the field, wherever you apply to, wherever you get accepted. So for me, this was the happy medium of, okay, I'll stay in Ohio for my classes, but for my internships, I'll go to New York like I want to, or go wherever I want to go.
Right.
So that's kind of how it happened. It started off in high school, just doing a lot of research to make sure I'm getting what I need out of paying for college. So I did 3 internships in New York. I did an internship in Minneapolis at Target. And then I also substituted one of my internships to study abroad in London at the London College of Fashion. So doing that really helped me have like my college repertoire and, learning what I learned in the classroom. And then those internships are really valuable because I was learning things that you just can't learn in the classroom.
Right.
And then when I graduated, I landed the job at Macy's, and I've been there ever since I graduated in 2016.
Awesome. So on the topic of international perspectives and fashion industry, some of our viewers are pretty young, high school or maybe college, young professionals. Could you share a little bit about what that intersection looks like? So what the intersection and the fashion industry looks like, whether it's inspiring the actual designs of things that are coming out, or kind of the side of how there's international dimensions to the fashion industry.
Yeah, I would say a little bit, I guess, for me, because Macy's, because the brand Inc. is only sold at Macy's, and Macy's is not a global company just yet. We're not selling to other countries at the moment. Hopefully we do in the future. So we're pretty much marketing towards American customers at the end of the day. But it is important to stay inspired by our international customer, just the fashion customer in general. And I think that comes in a lot with the trends that we look at. So we look at, higher fashion designers like Chanel or like Louis Vuitton that are based in other countries, and really try to use that as inspiration and interpret it for our specific brand and customer. Because fashion is so global, we're looking everywhere for inspiration. So I would definitely say international, a different aspect of it is the inspiration. And then, as I was saying before, as far as the retail and production, most of our production is overseas. So a lot of it, I would say, another part of my day-to-day would be communicating with our overseas vendors, which is really important because, one, they're not on the same time zone as us. So, being clear, we can't talk to them on the phone that much. So we're emailing them. So just being really clear. They speak English very well, but just simple things could get misinterpreted via email, especially with the different languages and, So I would say a lot of the international aspect, specifically for my job, would come from the production and the communication with our vendors and our factories.
Thank you for sharing. Hi to those who have joined in. Miss Jamila Jones, who is a fashion designer with City. And we're just talking kind of journey and guidance and advice, and about the, international perspectives in the fashion industry. So if you have any comments or questions, then please feel free to drop them in the thread. So Jamila, my next question to you is, what do you like most about your work, and what is most challenging about your work?
What I like most, I'm very hands-on. I love drawing. I love sewing. Unfortunately, my specific job, a lot of it is done over the computer. So I'm not hand sketching. I'm doing a lot of things in the computer, so I'm able to send it overseas. But I love doing things that are hands-on. I love hand sketching when I have the time. I love doing mock-ups for anything that's needed in the office. Fittings with our model is really fun. And I really just love the inspiration of it and kind of dreaming of an idea and being able to bring it to life and then seeing it in the store or wearing it myself, or, you know, seeing my friends and my mom wear it is like such a satisfying feeling. And just being a part of the process from the very beginning, because with retail, what the really beginning step is from the designers, you know, before it hits the stores, before the buyers are putting their hands on it. We're really the first step. So it's really fun to be a part of that. I would say the most challenging, as I said before, Inc. is the top driving fashion brand at Macy's. So, you know, besides the other brands, we're supposed to be hitting the trends first and as most accurately as we can. But sometimes the customer doesn't respond to the trends. So say for example, we're doing like polka dots and cheetah for our next collection. And once it hits the stores, no one's buying it, but like Louis Vuitton was doing it, Zara was doing it, everyone was doing it. We're seeing it all over the market, but maybe for some reason she's not responding. It's really challenging to figure out, like, oh, maybe she didn't like our specific cheetah print. Maybe she found it somewhere else cheaper. So sometimes it's hard when you're thinking you're doing all the strategic things and also doing things that are one of a kind, and then the customer kind of doesn't respond to it as much. But that's just life. Fashion is very like unpredictable. It's very much about like a feeling, you know, it's not like mathematical and definite all the time. Sometimes it just comes off of like how you're feeling or different trends. So yeah.
Great. Thank you. I'm curious to know, so how do you define style as a designer for you personally, or like
That's hard.
So I know that's probably a hard question.
Yeah, it's like a vague thing.
I have to ask.
Say it again.
I said, but since I'm here with a fashion expert, I have to ask.
Yes.
So,
yes. I would say, how do I define style? So this is an interesting thing, because I would say, and sorry if this is going on a different tangent, but my personal style and my style for my own brand is different than what Inc.'s aesthetic is. So you always have to keep that in mind and think of like, okay, what would the Inc. customer want, and not be biased and like let your own personal style kind of get in the way of making the right decisions for the brand. So I think when designing for Inc., I'm always it's a balance of looking at things that have sold well in the past, that have made us money, that sell every time we put it on the floor. And then we're also in charge of giving the customer something new. So she's coming back, she's buying those things that she always wants, but she's also like, oh, I've never seen that before. I didn't see that at Zara. I didn't see that at X, Y, and Z. So I want to buy it from Macy's. So it's important to have that mindset. And then to also, I would say there are parts of my personal style that kind of relate to the Inc. style. But you kind of have to have two brains in a way. So sometimes it's hard for me to be like, oh, what is style? Because it's like, sometimes I'm thinking of it in a strategic way.
Right.
And then sometimes I'm thinking of it in, okay, what do I feel like today? What do I want to put on? What kind of vibes do I want to give off? Right. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's kind of like, how do you feel today? What impression do you want to give to, you know, this group of people when you walk in a room? Or what do I need to do that the customer will buy this and I'm giving her something that she wants? So it's kind of like the strategic side, and then it's kind of like the dreamy side of style. So kind of have to have both mindsets in a way.
That was a great answer. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I hope it made sense.
So we have one question here from a viewer, and shout out to the BPIA members that are on, as well as some. So this is coming from one of our speakers, Gabrielle, who will be on tomorrow. Her question is, do you have aspirations to go global with your career?
Oh, definitely. So I work at Macys as a full-time job, and I also have my personal brand, Jamila Mariama, that I have on the side. Right now, I'm not doing too much with it. Every now and then I'll do custom orders, or I'll make like a small collection for myself to wear, or for bloggers to wear, just to kind of focus on brand awareness. definitely want to do both. As I said before, I would love if Macy's went global. I think, unfortunately, after this COVID situation, I don't know if that'll happen because it's like so much more complicated now. But I do enjoy working at Macy's because, as I said, we have over 700 stores. So thinking about the scale of how much of what I've designed and how many people are able to have access to that at a great price is really rewarding. I still have interest, and I've always had interest for working for smaller ready-to-wear brands. But the thing about that is it's very limited. Majority of the population can't afford to buy those clothes. So, you know, a lot of people aren't wearing them. There's a few select amount of people that actually has access to that. So for me, it's almost more rewarding working for a company like Macy's that everyone knows what it is. Everyone could, for the most part, afford it and have access to it. It's a little bit more satisfying. But I would love to have an international experience just to kind of understand the international customer a little bit more. There's a lot more variation with other customers that you have to think about the fit and the size and the production and culture. There's just so many different things that affect clothing. For example, like in China, the demographic of people and like the average customer is very short and very petite. So that would be something that you would have to keep in mind when designing on such a big scale like Macy's. So when we're doing our fittings with models, that would be something we would really, really have to consider. Our average fit model is about 5'7" or 5'8". So we fit every single design on her. If we're fitting on her and selling in, you know, Asia, they want to be able to fit the clothes as well. So it would just be a learning experience for me if I were able to do that. But yes, definitely eventually. And I'm still young, so I have time, but that's definitely an interest of mine.
Yes, and I look forward to see your designs on, you know, Fashion Week Paris, Fashion Week.
Oh, thank
you. She also asked another question, but it was answered. I'd asked it earlier.
Okay.
The call, so I'll just suggest that Gabrielle, with your question on how has COVID affected your industry, that was at the call. So please feel free to revisit the video once it's posted. And again, hi and welcome to all the new folks who have joined in.
Hey guys, this is Jamila Jones,
who is a fashion designer with Macy's in New York City. So my next question, what is the best professional decision that you've made in your career?
I would have to say choosing the school I went to, as I was saying before. A lot of fashion schools right now, they require at least 1 or 2 internships throughout your 4-year program. But I think since the University of Cincinnati had 5 requirements, like I said, there's only a certain amount of things you can learn in the classroom. The internships I did were also very different, which I did on purpose to figure out what I like and figure out what I don't like. So my first internship was with Macys, which is a couture runway company. So they do red carpet gowns, bridal gowns, like pretty much all dresses that are like extremely expensive. A lot of hand sewing and embroidery and just like really pretty stuff. That was my first internship. Really loved it. My second internship I did at American Eagle in tech design. So tech design is basically after you get a garment in, you're measuring it, making sure it's the spec, fitting it on the model. You're not doing the designing, you're making sure the designs fit well. So it was really technical. It wasn't as creative as what I do now and what I did at Macys, but it's another side of fashion design that, you know, you could go into. I liked it, but I knew I didn't want to do that because I was missing all the creative, like, initial concepts. I wasn't doing the drawings. I wasn't picking the prints and the washes. But it was good to know that I didn't want to do that, but it was out there. And then my third internship I did at Target in Minneapolis. And most of my internships, I'm assisting designers, but for this one, I was able to do my own project and present it to a team. at the end of the summer. So a lot of my time was really spent networking and working on my project rather than just like assisting a designer for the whole summer. So it really helped challenge me to grow a voice professionally and in design. And like I said, I was able to meet so many people that I know that I'm still in contact with today versus like just working in a little corner for the whole internship and not really talking to anyone.
Right.
And then that's also a great company to work for. They had a great working environment. She interned at Macys too. We will talk about that later. It was one of a kind type of internship, but it was really cool. And then my last internship was at Tory Burch, which was also different than Macys, super different than Target, super different than American Eagle, a little bit more of the aesthetic that I'm interested in. And the work environment was different at all four of these places. So it's just interesting to kind of have an idea of what I'm getting myself into before I go out into the working world. So I think that was like the best decision I could have made. If I went to school for 4 years and had no internships, moving to New York would have been like the biggest shock of my life, I think, because I always knew I wanted to work in New York. So I think choosing the school I did really helped for everything that came after.
Great. Thank you so much for answering that. So here's my concluding question.
Yeah.
And then feel free to put any, final thoughts or advice on that. If you could speak to your younger self, is there anything that you know now that you wish you would have known when you first started this path?
Well, it's funny because I'm 26 now and I'll be 27 in November. I really thought I was going to have my own brand by the age of like 25. I don't know how, but I really thought I thought I was going to be married by 25. Like I really thought so much was going to be different. I think a lot of it has to do with, Ohio life versus New York life. Very, very different. But I think I always had kind of like different things planned, at least for the next 5 years in my head. And I think I would tell my younger self not to be stuck on that because things are changing all the time. Like the COVID crisis, like that pushes back certain goals, which is okay. Sometimes life happens, that's what has to happen. But I think just to kind of be more open-minded that things could change so rapidly and not to kind of have goals, but not to be too stuck on them because you have to be prepared for like anything to happen, especially in the fashion industry. Things are changing so fast. We're reacting super fast. The retail industry is changing all the time. So just kind of not to be in your head too much and just to be open for change all the time and adaptable to change.
Jamila, thank you so much for coming on.
Of course.
Guidance, your insider tips. What's the best way for people to reach you, or find you online?
Yeah. The only social media I have is Instagram. Okay. So Fashionista Mila is my personal page, and then my design page is Jamila Mariama, and my website is jamilamariama.com. My Gmail is jamilamariama@gmail. So everything is pretty simple. I have all the information in my Instagram bios. And like I said, I only have Instagram, so I'm pretty much on it all the time. Always check. Yeah, easy to find. I see one question I could answer.
Okay.
Someone asked if I had a concentration in college. I actually didn't. I only did womenswear. Our college didn't require us to have a specific concentration such as sportswear, evening wear. Mostly because since we were interning every other semester, it was almost like no time to really hone down on something so specific. If you were interested in doing something like that, you could do a project based around that or your senior collection based around something specific. But I think it was kind of like that because we weren't on campus in the classrooms to really focus on something so like particular. So yeah, I just wanted to answer that question really quick because I saw it pop up.
Sure. Well, again, Jamila, thank you so much for speaking to us and sharing your journey. And thank you to everyone who joined today. So again, this will be posted on our IGTV and on YouTube afterwards. So feel free to follow Black Professionals in International Affairs, as well as Jamila's handle that can be found on the flyer on our page. And we look forward to seeing you all at more BPIA chats.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Sure. All right, everyone, have a nice day.
Bye, guys. Thank you.